Welcome back to Technically Speaking. Today we're talking about the 10 top tech tips and tricks. The first 5 tips were all having to do with your cell phone, but now we're moving over to our computers. So tech tip number 6. I hate my Windows 8 computer. I can't tell you how many times I've heard this, but if you have a brand new computer and it looks something like this, you have Windows 8. Windows 8, if you get into it, does have some wonderful features about it, but the most important problem right now is it looks nothing like the computer you had before. So you come home from the store, you plug everything in, and you open it up and you get something that looks like this. Now, one of the nice things about Windows 8, and one of the reasons why they created it, is because it works very well if you have a touch screen. See how I can get around all these little squares here? If you don't have a touch screen, well, that's a big problem on its own. But most people who have a Windows 8 computer simply want it to look the way it used to look. And there is a simple solution to that. If you look on the keyboard, there's a little key here that looks like 4 boxes. They actually call that the Windows key because it does look like the Windows logo. Just press that key and instantly we have it back into a Windows looking screen with our little icons and folders and all sorts of things. That Windows button is a toggle switch, so if I press it again, I'm back to this little boxy screen. But if I press it and I end up looking like what they call the desktop view. The desktop view is certainly something you're much more comfortable with. The other thing most people complain about a Windows 8 computer is not only is the desktop gone, but the Start button is gone. That button over here that you would click and all sorts of menus would pop up. Well, going back to that Windows button, if you hold down that button while clicking on the X, the Windows button, and press X, do you see on the screen, I got a pop-up here with lots of things that we would have had in our original Start button. So the things to remember, if you come home from the store and you have a computer that looks like this, and it looks a little too confusing, just press the Windows key to get to the desktop, and if you press the Windows key plus the X, you'll get your Start menu coming right back. Now that brand new computer doesn't look quite as bad as it did a few minutes ago. So that's how to get around your brand new Windows 8 computer. Tech tip number 7, help with the internet. What a lot of people don't realize is that the internet has lots of different ways you can access it. Those different ways are called browsers. Now, most of you probably use the browser that came pre-installed on your computer, Internet Explorer. But there are other options besides Internet Explorer. Some of the other options that you could use include browsers called Firefox, Chrome, and Safari. The 4 of them together, Internet Explorer, Firefox, Chrome, and Safari, are all free, and they're all web browsers, meaning programs that help you to get onto the internet. If you're having difficulty with something, it's a good idea to try a different program. A web browser is kind of like a window. If you think about your house, you have windows that face out onto the street, windows that face out into the backyard. Different windows might be appropriate for different things. The same thing goes for web browsers. You might feel comfortable with Internet Explorer, but one day, all of a sudden you're trying to buy something online and the little shopping cart just isn't working the way you would like it to. Or you're trying to read the news or your mail or whatever it might be. If you're ever having difficulty on the internet with something, the easiest thing to do is to switch to another browser. I have all 4 of those browsers installed on my computers because while I might like one for one task, a different one is good for something else. For example, Firefox is really good for what I do for a living, which is making websites. It can show me all the website coding. But I like that Chrome browser a lot because if I'm working on one computer and I go to a different one and I used Chrome, it remembers what page I was on and will have it instantly ready for me. even on my iPad. So one is not a one-size-fits-all solution. It's a good idea to have at least 2 installed on your computer. And as I said, they're all free. So all you'd have to do is go to www.firefox.com and click on Download Free, or www.chrome.com, click Download Free, any of those. So if you have a problem, try a different view. Switch browsers. I think you'd be amazed at how it solves all those things. Tech tip number 8, avoiding malware. Well, unfortunately, when you're on the computer, it seems like the thing you're doing most often is trying to get away from the bad guys. No matter how you slice it, there are viruses and malware and spam and phishing schemes and all sorts of things out there. How can you protect yourself? Well, 3 main tips to keep in mind to keep things at bay. First of all, don't open any unsolicited email or pop-ups, meaning if you get an email that you didn't ask for from a company or a business that you don't associate with, or while you're on your computer, you suddenly get a pop-up, a little window that opens asking you for something that wasn't your request, don't follow those leads. Don't follow the links. It's kind of like junk mail. If you get mail that you didn't ask for, you throw it away. Same thing on the computer. Email that was unsolicited or pop-ups that you didn't ask for, don't open them. The second tip is that if your computer starts to warn you and say, you may have a virus, click here and we'll perform a scan for you, that warning is the virus. Lots of viruses go onto your computer disguised like a warning signal. If you clicked on that button and they'd say scan now, so we found 45 malicious files, scan now. Once you click on it, they're going to want your credit card number for $50 so that they'll clean your computer all set. The fact is, what you're trying to clean it from is that scam that's on your computer. So don't click on anything that you did not ask for. And finally, it's not just a pop-up on the computer that might be scam. I've had many friends who are getting phone calls now. They'll answer their phone, and the person on the other end will say that they are from Microsoft. And hi, we're calling from Microsoft. We understand you're having a problem with your computer. We're here to help. Well, they're only having the problem with their computer because the people made the problem and now call up on the phone. Trust me, Microsoft does not call people individually to help them with their computer.